here's how you can be a great counselor by just doing 3 things. And I mean this very seriously. Do these 3 things. You will smash it. You will be great at what you do. And it does take practice and dedication, but here they are. And they're absolutely research-based. And they absolutely work in the real world as well. And interesting, it's in a way, it's not even 3 things that you do. It's 3 things that you're aware of, that you listen to. Okay. And once you're listening to those, you'll naturally respond to them, because information changes how we behave. And so the first thing is just the strength of the working alliance with the client. Just listen to it. And you'll be attentive to when it's strong. When it's not strong, you'll naturally want to make adjustments. When it's not strong, when it is strong. And sometimes the reasons for being strong might surprise you. How do you do that? Just there's lots of questions you can ask and checking in with people and forms you can do. So, I'm not going to get into that right now, but that's the first thing you have to do, is be aware of the strength or the weakness of the working alliance. And that's, does the client feel respected and understood? Does the client feel these really fun, meaningful goals and they matter? Does the client feel that the way we're working on this feels right to them, it's good for you? Things like this. Strong question. So that's all you have to do. Check in with it, ask questions about it. Obviously, I won't break it down, but there's tons of different ways of doing it. And you're doing it and you're adjusting, you're bringing this information in. So let's just, before we get on to the next 2 things you have to do to be a fantastic counselor, let's just talk about how do we know this? Well, they've done research. They've looked at people who do really well from counselling, looked at people who don't do so well, and so on. And they've sort of said, okay, well, when they're going through the sessions, they can use forms that actually ask these questions. They can check out, all right, people who tend to give higher ratings. And by higher ratings, I mean 8 out of 10, pretty darn high for a good working alliance is what's required. It's not that hard when you adjust and when you think everything is set up to achieve that, when you're listening and making adjustments. And there's lots of strategies to achieve it. So they would look at that and either say there's a correlation between people doing really well and then the people during the counselling processes reporting strong working alliances. And then you can even do it subsequently. You can look at people who have done well 6 months after the counselling or a year after counselling and say, and you could look at people who did not do well and you say, what did you think of the counselling sessions? That you go, well, they might say they were okay or wasn't too bad. That would be a kind of weakish alliance. But say, it was really meaningful, engaging, strong, felt understood, got some good ideas, really helpful. That's a strong working alliance. And again, a big correlation. And even more importantly, another bit of research is that when you get a strong working alliance and you see improvement early with clients in counselling, the benefits last for years, which is just pretty cool. But that's an aside. So that's the first one. The second one is pay attention to how much recovery capital the person has. That's the strength, supports, and resources that they feel good about that are helping them to achieve recovery, which is feeling and functioning better in life again. Now, how do you? There are forms. There's lots of forms out there you can do it with, which is good if you're starting off. You can, or if you like to do it, it's great. You just talk to them and they'll tell you. A question I asked when they're talking to me and opening up, I said, "When's the last time you opened up to somebody about this?" And they'd say, "They can't remember. It was years ago." That would be an indication that it's low, that they don't have an ongoing support structure, or you're connecting with any resources to help or they might say, they might just not have any insight into what's going on, like the nature of addiction. And they might say, well, okay, I get cravings. Do you have any skills for it? They would say no. So all of those things being no would indicate this is low recovery capital. And if somebody had the opposite answers, I talk to people a lot. I got meetings I go to. I got friends I can talk to. I connect to professional support a lot. I read a lot of books. I got some great insights into it. I got some really tools for tracking my progress. That would be high working alliance. Basically, my job when I'm working with people, first of all, create a strong working alliance. Then just help them build their recovery capital. And obviously my connection with them directly is a big part of it. They have a place where they're understood and supported and get meaningful goals, but also encouraging them, coaching them in a way to build it outside of that as well, which they're quite happy to do. Not that I don't even use the word recovery capital with people. It's just, I say, what, this is a really challenging thing you're trying to do. It's important to have a good supportive network of people, might be a way of, I would say it, and get them engaged with building recovery capital. Again, how do we know it from the research? Well, again, the same stuff. You can just correlate the good outcomes to people who have higher degrees of that. It's not that hard. And this is meta-analytical studies across the board show this case. But if you think about it, like, it's common sense. Spend billions in research to figure this out. But if you have, people you feel good about connecting with that help you, good strengths within you that you've tapped into, and good resources, and you're feeling good about it, you're going to do better. And of course, we've also learned that it's not just having these things, but how you feel about them makes a difference. You can have a counsellor, but how you feel about going to that counselling session is that kind of weak or really strong recovery capital. So it's important to tune into their subjective experience of it. That's the recovery capital. Just listen to it. Develop your different ways of helping people build it, and realize, in the session, you're building it massively as well, giving them a place to listen to, understood, and giving them some new insights and helping them think things through and all that kind of stuff, and giving them a routine and all kinds of stuff. And the last thing then, and this is, just measure progress. Again, the easiest way to do it is use some kind of outcome measure at the end of the session, or some people like to use it at the start of the session and talk about the middle. Just use it, and is the main thing, and use it in a way that's meaningful, engaging to the clients. The key. Why measure progress? Because look, if you're not making progress in the first 3 to 6 weeks, you need to change how you're doing things. You avoid dependency, deterioration, and dropout simply by measuring. And clients love it. As professionals, quite reluctant to do it, but you got to appreciate, actually, clients love doing this. It's like, wouldn't you prefer, when you're going to see somebody, say, we're going to just make sure that this is a benefit to you by asking you these questions. Could be some questions, just 4 questions. The other ones are like 40, 45 questions on it. Like, the clients don't mind because they want to make sure it works. So just measuring progress is huge. And of course, there's also other ways to measure conversationally. You can be tuning into the story they're telling and identifying that. But these little questionnaires are just the simplest, most straightforward way to do it. Share with the client, discuss it. And, and even starting off, the scores are generally quite low. And you say, okay, they're quite low now. We're going to be putting in some work. And the plan is that over time, we'll see these improve within the next couple of weeks or at most couple of months, something like that. So those are the 3 things. Don't do anything. Just listen. Be aware. Is the working alliance strong? Listen to it. You'll naturally make adjustments and work towards it. Is their recovery capital high? Again, if it is good, if it's low, you will naturally start finding ways to help them build it. And the third thing is measure progress. Simplest thing in the world to do. Just do it. Do those 3 things. You'll be amazing. Because if you think of it, the last 2 things are the 2 things that create recovery. High recovery capital, measuring progress. High recovery capital creates recovery. And then measuring progress just makes sure that it's working. That's just how recovery happens. That's just the research. And the first thing, then the strong working alliance, and you can use other words or ways to talk about it. And that is how we connect with people. I mean, without that, it's like a car without petrol. It's just not going anywhere. It might be the best car in the world. It doesn't matter. It's better to have a very average car with petrol in it than a Rolls Royce with no petrol, right? So it's about having, no, that's a bit of a silly metaphor, but what I'm saying is that without it, you're going nowhere. And that's our craft in a way. We do that. And then within the context of that alone will create change. There's huge recovery capital in it. And then we just keep an eye on the other 2 things as well. So those are 3 things you got to do. They're very doable, very practical. They're not mysterious. Just some simple questions, some simple tools. Just get used to it. And you do those things consistently with the people you're helping, you will excel at your craft.